Hey everyone, this is Corey and Carly, the hosts of the Surviving Sister Wives podcast.
Sister Wives returns at last, and while the Browns have gone their own separate ways, that doesn't mean they're done with each other. Mary and Janelle form an unlikely alliance. Christine is off living in newly married bliss, and Cody and Robin are left wondering, can they be happy in a monogamous relationship?
And after all the joy and drama, they hit the hot seat and answer the questions we've been begging to know. Sister Wives returns Sunday, April 20th at 10 on TLC.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Now at Verizon, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on my plan. And you can get a single line for just $45 a month when you switch and bring your phone. That's our best price ever on unlimited welcome with autopay plus taxes and fees, guaranteed for 3 years. Because at Verizon, we got you. Visit your local DC Verizon store today. $20 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G and 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply.
I told everybody I was going to win that fight and get back on track. I told my daughter I was going to get a bigger apartment so she could move in. You don't think I wanted to call you? I was embarrassed. I mean, I'm sick of being a fucking disappointment.
You really think your family is looking out for you?
Hello, guys, and welcome to another remixed episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin Lundberg, and I'm here with my right hand, Vanessa Mendel. Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Oh, I'm so excited. This is, honestly, we're about to dive into The Fighter, which is like a top 10, like cable watchable for me, Vanessa. Yeah, I don't know if you have those.
You bring it up all the time. I know what you mean, and this is definitely yours.
This was part of David O. Russell's like comeback story. This was like he had kind of like stumbled a bit, and then he came back to make The Fighter, and I just loved hearing how this movie came together because it stumbled a few times before Todd Lieberman was able to like launch it into the world. And what a story it is. So I can't wait to go get going.
Yeah, me too. Let's do it.
Todd Lieberman, esteemed producer, someone I really, really admire.
Well, that's nice.
We've been doing this series of interviews with great producers about their great movies, and it's been so fun. And I would say The Fighter is a film that I watch probably once every couple months. I watched it again.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's like one of those films that like my husband loves as much as I do.
Yeah.
And so, we still do that thing where you flip around cable.
Yeah.
And then
so
you'll just sort of land on something. And it's one of those films that will just always just stop because there's something for everyone, right? It's the story of Mickey and Christian Bale's performance is so awesome. And the sisters are amazing. And Amy Adams just transforms. But in doing a little research, I just realized it was quite a road to production. And so the drill of this podcast, Todd, and I hope you'll come back and do it again for your other amazing films, but is to sort of take us through the entire story.
Yeah, I have to jog my memory a little bit.
Yeah, and that's okay. A lot of producers are like, I can't quite remember the year, but just start with your first memory and how it came to be and just
all right, this is going to go all the way back.
Yeah, man.
We're going all the way back.
Let's do it. I'm so pumped.
Okay, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
This is going to surprise you.
Okay. Yes.
1979.
Stop. You were like 4 years old?
I was 6 years old.
Okay.
The very first movie I ever went to see in a movie theater was called The Champ.
Yes.
With John Voight and
Ricky Schroeder. I remember that movie 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm 6 years old.
Yep.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
I'm with my parents.
Okay.
And I'm crying in the movie theater and I don't understand why.
Yep.
I'm like, what's going on here? What is this? By the way, think about that as the first movie you've ever saw in the movie. Like the first movie my oldest kid saw was like Kung Fu Panda. And then my second kid, it was like Cars 2. And I'm going to see
very
the Champ,
user-friendly. Yes, totally.
where like the dad is dying and he's like upset. Whatever. And so I come out of that. I'm like, I've been like rocked emotionally as a 6-year-old by this experience. And honestly, it stayed with me forever. Okay. So fast forward. I'm going to make up the date here. I'm going to say 1983.
Yeah, just sell it.
Rocky 3.
I'm right there with you too.
Hulkin, it's Mr. T.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Rocky 4, 2 years later. Ivan Drago.
Yes.
Massively jingoistic film about American exceptionalism.
Those are the times.
I went home.
Yeah.
Those were the time, like big Cold War era film. I went home as a 6th grader and convinced myself that I was going to do 100 push-ups before the end of the day. That's what that film did to me. Okay. So there's a theme here in boxing films, right?
Yep.
So when I started making movies, it was always a goal of mine to make a boxing movie.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
And this idea of 2 people in the ring with no help, mano a mano, and what kind of sport translates into larger meanings for things.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously
Loving
in The Champ, it was a story about fathers and sons. In Rocky, it's kind of a love story. And I wanted to tell a boxing story. So for years, I would kind of tell people, I want to make a boxing movie. By the way, I didn't even know what that meant. And lo and behold, I'm a believer in if you put things out into the universe, they come back to you, right? So I would tell anybody.
Yeah.
These 2 guys, Paul Tamasi and Eric Johnson, came into my office and they said, we have a boxing movie. I'm like, well, hey,
your man.
I've been looking for one of these for a while. And they proceeded to put in, I'm going to make the story better and say it was a VHS tape. It might have been a DVD. I don't remember. That was probably a DVD. And they had cut together home movie footage, video footage from the HBO documentary High on Crack Street. And they constructed a narrative of what the story of Dickie Eklund and Mickey Ward would be. Now, obviously, I said I'm a boxing movie fan. I'm also a boxing fan. I did not know this story. I didn't know the story of these brothers. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this video and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm looking for. It's a story about brothers and family. And it just so happens to take place in the world of boxing. And this I vividly remember. At the end of the video, I stood up in my office and I screamed and I'm like, this is bleeping amazing.
Oh God.
That was the beginning.
That doesn't happen very often where you're just so sure that this is the thing.
This is it.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you know, as a successful producer yourself, you know that like nothing's easy. So just because I like it doesn't mean anything.
That's step
one. They
one.
had sat down with a few other producers.
Now,
I was making a movie at the time along with my partner at the time, David Hoberman, and we were making a movie called 8 Below.
Sure.
8 Below was taking place we were filming it in Smithers, British Columbia, which was about 35, 40 below zero. And we were making the film on the top of a mountain. Now, ironically, a dear friend of mine, also the director of that movie and an incredible producer, an amazing legendary man, Frank Marshall, was directing 8 Below.
Oh my God.
Now, guess who the other producer was that also wanted to tell the story of Mickey and Dickie?
Was it
Frank Marshall. So Frank and I are on this mountain, 40 below zero, in a little tent with a teeny little heater, freezing our butts off. And we had one satellite phone because there was no cell reception. So he was having Universal bid for him, and we were having Paramount bid for us.
Oh my God.
And we would pass the phone back and forth and say, here's your studio. Here's your studio.
Is that true? That's an amazing little detail.
This is true.
Okay.
This is true. And we ended up selling it to Paramount. And that is the beginning of where the process happens. Right?
How did you win the day? How did you win the day? Was it
oh gosh, I
dollars and
think it
cents?
was. I don't want to take anything away from Frank, who's incredible. I don't honestly remember. I'm going to probably say it was probably a financial situation.
Sure. Okay.
And we won the day. So, boy, would it be amazing if one can say, I love something and it's as easy as that, and then it gets made.
Right.
Well, that movie took, I don't know, 8 years to get made from that moment. Or,
oh my God.
No, actually probably a little less than that. 4 or 5. Yeah, that was 2005. So, yeah, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Paul and Eric write a draft.
And are there life rights? Like, do you have to option life rights, or is it public domain?
No, it's not public domain. We ended up sitting with Mickey and Dickie for a while, and Paul and Eric recorded. We still have those recordings.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, 15 hours of just talking. And it was kind of like investigative journalism.
Yeah.
And they wrote the draft, and then the development process begins. And
did you love the draft right away? Like, was it like, this is working?
Well, it was, it was a very well-told version of kind of a linear storytelling of here it is all laid out. So Paul and Eric did an incredible job of laying the blueprint. And as happens in development all the time, especially studio development at that time, things might be a little different now with the way people spend money on development. But at that time, it was kind of a natural course of action to, all right, here's a draft. Now let's hire another person to rewrite it. And we did that several times. Several times. I mean, Lewis Colick did an amazing rewrite. Paul Attanasio did some great work.
Wow.
So it was kind of cumulative as the process would go on. And, this script was always something that we loved and we knew we wanted to tell the story of.
Did you feel like every time you hired someone new, it got better? Or were there moments where like it was like got better in this way, but took a step back here? And, it's that thing. How do you find the truest form of the story you want to tell? I'm always just so curious how different producers handle this development process, which
it's the latter. It's the latter. Like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, where you can take a little bit of this and say, oh, but we missed a little piece of this. And it's kind of like this big giant lump of clay or Play-Doh or silly putty or something mushy that you can kind of form into something.
Yeah.
And you're taking a piece here and a piece there and putting it over here. And you just kind of this organism that's alive and growing, and the continual process of pushing it forward. And as well as anyone, like if you're pushing forward a movie that you love, that's the only way things happen.
Yes.
Is if you're continually in love with it to continually push it forward. Like if at any moment, any one of us, David, myself, the studio, we're like, I don't know if this thing's worth it. It's gone. It's dead. That movie doesn't get made.
That's right.
So, the passion, the love, the eternal optimism of eventually we know this story is going to get told because it's too good. That's what keeps you going.
Right.
So many rewrites later, we started getting some director traction. Now, Brad Weston, who is a formidable producer and studio executive and kind of also a legend in the business, was at Paramount at the time and just a giant fan of the movie. The first person that we thought would star in this film was Eminem.
Stop it.
Eminem was going to be Mickey Ward.
Oh my God, I love it. These are the details where you're like, what? But that was just a moment in time, right? Where
that was a moment in time where he had come off of 8 Mile and he was, interested in making movies and he wanted to do a boxing movie. And so that was something we pursued for a minute. And there was real life in that for a minute. So the movie really started coming together. Darren Aronofsky became the director of record at the moment. So Darren brought in his writing collaborator, an incredible writer named Scott Silver.
Sure.
And they spent a considerable amount of time kind of constructing a draft with the hopes that it was going to be a combination of Brad Pitt and Matt Damon.
Okay.
Brad Pitt was going to be Dickie, Matt Damon was going to be Mickey. That obviously didn't end up working. But what came out of that process was a really incredible piece of writing. And that was both Darren and Scott. And it was also kind of the history of all the drafts that had come before it that led up to this moment where there's this just beautiful, harrowing, dark piece of writing, really emotional. So Darren falls off.
Was it just timing, or he just decided not to do it?
It was timing. He had made The Wrestler. So kind of like in the middle of all this, he made The Wrestler. So from like going from The Wrestler to The Fighter, probably for him felt a little weird. I was like, the gymnast, the acrobat, like what?
Right. Okay.
So in comes Mark Wahlberg, and Mark obviously comes from this area, knows and knew this story really well, knew Mickey Ward, and Mark became kind of the engine that propelled it. Almost like, for the first few years of it, we were the torch bearers of we're keeping this flame alive. And then Mark Wahlberg comes in and like added to the passion. Right. He's like, this movie's getting made.
Yeah.
Like, heck yeah, it is. So Mark was the one who suggested David Russell, and God bless him. So David came in.
What were your feelings on that just prior to working with him?
I loved his movies.
Me too.
I didn't know him personally.
Yeah.
Loved his movies.
He had made like Three Kings and I Heart Huckabees.
Three Kings and Flirting with Disaster. Spanking the Monkey.
Yeah.
And, like, he'd done just some incredible films. He was in a moment in his career right then when I Heart Huckabees, that video had come out. So people knew that there was, combustible personality in there.
He had famously, for our audience, just had been recorded yelling on set, right? And it kind of, And so I think there was a moment in time, and he had made this movie Nailed, which was a little bit troubled and hadn't come out. So a brilliant filmmaker who probably at that moment in time needed a movie. Mark was standing by him, and we loved his films. And he came in and sat with us and said, I love this script. I wouldn't change a word. Then he proceeded to rewrite it. But but by the way, in the best possible way. Right.
And here's kind of like, here's a really interesting, something I really learned making films through this movie. And there was a ton of things I learned. But the script was so good, and it was really dark. David came in and said, you need to lighten this up a little bit. Like, it's too dark. And I actually argued against that. I said, David, it's a movie about a crack addict, and I don't know how you find levity in that. And he's like, you have to, because this movie needs release valves. Right. And it was David who infused the whole fabric of kind of the movie with this gallows humor, the family, the sister. That was all him. And what a lesson I learned there.
I have done everything I could for you, Mickey. This MTV girl comes.
Hey everyone, this is Corey and Carly, the hosts of the Surviving Sister Wives podcast.
Sister Wives returns at last, and while the Browns have gone their own separate ways, that doesn't mean they're done with each other. Mary and Janelle form an unlikely alliance. Christine is off living in newly married bliss, and Cody and Robin are left wondering, can they be happy in a monogamous relationship?
And after all the joy and drama, they hit the hot seat and answer the questions we've been begging to know. Sister Wives returns Sunday, April 20th at 10 on TLC.
If you wear glasses, you know how hard it is to find the perfect pair. But step into a Warby Parker store, and you'll see it doesn't have to be. Not only will you find a great selection of frames, you'll also meet helpful advisors and friendly optometrists. Yep, many Warby Parker locations also offer eye exams. So the next time you need glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, or a new prescription, you know where to look. To find a Warby Parker store near you or to book an eye exam, head over to warbyparker.com/retail.
Stop calling me an MTV or whatever the fuck that means.
Wild.
The pride of Lowell is back!
So anyways, long story short, he came in and did a lot of rewriting himself, added so many of those elements. We went through a casting process with Dickie and talked about many, many different people.
Yeah.
We ended up settling on, obviously, Christian.
Yeah.
Ironically, this is where it's so fascinating to think about, like, gosh, if it had gone a different direction, what's the movie that would have happened?
Yeah.
There was concerns from certain people at the time that Christian didn't have a sense of humor. And this was something that David was now infusing. And so obviously those concerns were ill-informed, or he hadn't proven it yet.
Right.
And he came to set and just embodied this character.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about Mark and I think about Christian and all the time they spent kind of researching those roles, spending time with the family, it was really important to all of us to honor the truth, really spend time with the family. So obviously that concern was not really a concern at the end of the day.
What was Christian? Remind me if you can like contextualize what he was, because I remember like obviously like American Psycho and The Machinist, and he was sort of known for transforming himself and being a very earnest actor. But you're right, I don't remember too many comic
No, there
roles.
wasn't much. I mean,
yeah.
Batman wasn't all that.
Right. It was like pretty serious.
So the other thing that was really important to everybody, and when I say everyone, I mean everybody. This was David, this was us, this was Mark. It was kind of a sense of verisimilitude, like really getting to the crux and the reality of what goes on in Lowell. And so part of that meant, let's cast real people.
Oh my God.
So this is where some of David Russell's brilliance really just explodes, where he can get performances out of people who have never acted before.
I cannot.
And you're kind of watching like a part documentary, part scripted piece. And really another thing that I learned on this movie watching him work was how different directors do different techniques with actors.
Oh, I'm dying to hear. Go.
Oh,
go.
gosh.
Yeah.
He doesn't cut.
Tell me. Okay.
He doesn't cut. He's kind of keeps you a little, not you or me, but like the performer, a little off guard, right?
Okay.
Like there's a script that people read, and then he'll throw out lobs right in the middle. So the performer is maybe sometimes a little not completely settled. Now, some people respond really well to that and some don't. This group thankfully responded quite well to it. It was just a constant amount of filming and adjusting and filming and adjusting.
So he wouldn't cut. He would just keep it running.
Yeah. Try it this way. Try it this way. Hey, do that. Hey, what do you think about this? Let's go over there. And
oh, God. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah. It was great. I'd never seen it before, and it was really exceptional. It's kind of like he's a conductor, and he's got this whole picture in his head where he can hold thousands of variables simultaneously, whereas, I can hold one.
Right.
Like, here's the script. And he's like, well, no, there's these other 10,000 things that we're going to try too. It was really cool.
And keep talking, because I'm just like, I'm so fascinated how he got those performances out of those sisters who presumably had never acted before, right? They were
some of them had, some of them hadn't. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, when you arrived on set, he would just work them over till they got comfortable, and like it just felt like of a piece. Like I'm just so fascinated by his process.
Yeah, you kind of didn't even know when the camera was rolling at certain times.
Right.
It was just, he's got so much energy, and I'm not going to lie and say we weren't nervous going in, given some of the person. But the truth is, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, he's a brilliant filmmaker. He's a lovely soul. Yeah. And his style is unlike anything I've ever experienced before. One of the other, I don't know if it's a legendary story out there or it's a legendary story for us who made the movie, but Paramount was going through some transitions at the time. And the Brad Pitt Matt Damon version of the movie that they were looking at with Darren Aronofsky was kind of star-studded power, like studio film in their minds. When that didn't happen, it lost a little bit of steam. And this is where an extraordinary amount of credit goes to Mark Wahlberg and his team, because that's when Relativity came in. Okay. So Relativity then came in to kind of take over the film, finance the film. The budget was slashed. God bless everybody who worked on this movie, because nobody made upfront money. I mean, a little bit. It wasn't like a payday. We made the movie for $21 million.
Okay.
I think the actors got paid a fraction of what they would have normally gotten paid.
Okay.
With an upside, obviously, and success.
Sure.
But everyone kind of bought into that idea. And once it became that idea and we were able to finance the film through Relativity, the freedom levers of kind of how to make it and what would normally be going up against kind of large studio notes with a large investment kind of went away.
Yes.
And that allowed for the style of the way that David made the movie. So when I kind of think back to all the could have beens of like what would have happened if this happened and this happened, the best version ended up happening through a lot of times things that felt harrowing at the moment.
Yeah.
Like when actors drop out, my gosh, that means the movie's going away.
Right.
But yet those are the best things for this film that could have happened, because the result was a combination of all of these moves that were made, and many of them were creative freedom moves.
So when that transition happened, were you guys put on pause for a moment, or were you just like, we're going and they're going to pick up where Paramount left off?
I guess it was a combination of both. I mean, and I include Mark in this because he was relentless, absolutely relentless. We knew it was going to get made, so we just kind of kept going.
Yeah.
But the relativity thing happened rather quickly.
Okay.
It transitioned over rather quickly. And then David ended up rewriting the first act, which in the original draft, if I recall, was all period. It took place in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
So in order to kind of help budgetary constraints, he rewrote the entire first act. So it took place modern day. So it was kind of one uniform look as opposed to variable looks.
Yes. Okay. So
now picture that movie.
Oh my God.
The one that takes place in 1979.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Incredible. So you're like trying to hold it together, keep it pushing forward. I will just say I've done one movie with Wahlberg, and it's incredible when you have an actor who knows his power in the industry, knows how to utilize his team, right? How quickly things can move.
Oh yeah.
And it's a real sight to see. I mean, not to compare him to like a mob boss, but I feel like Mark makes like 4 calls and things just happen. And I was always so impressed with his ability to do that.
No, he is a true producer. He got, many things that he ended up making happen on this film, but he got Sugar Ray Leonard in. It was like, let me make a call.
Oh my God.
And Sugar Ray Leonard's in the movie.
Totally.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Really, really impressive. I mean, one of the most incredible actor producers I've ever seen in action. And also just feels like he's so committed to the performance and the director's vision, right? Like he doesn't feel like someone who gets rattled by different filmmakers' styles, and he kind of just goes with it. It seemed to me.
Yeah. It's been great. So on the set, so that was like getting it up and running. And then on the set, it was both financial and creative. We really wanted to force the issue of filming in Lowell, where the movie took place. So we kind of used the town of Lowell essentially as our backlot almost.
Which I love.
We kind of set up camp in that place. So what that also means is you get a lot of visitors every day. So there were so many times when either Mickey or Dickie or the family or cousins and Jeff Waxman, who is also an amazing producer and he was our line producer on this film and just had so many pieces to juggle.
Sure.
And did an exceptional job of keeping it all together. He would come up to me and he'd be like, "Oh, we got 50 extra lunches today we got to serve." That's not something that the line producer generally likes to hear because it goes against their bottom line.
Sure.
Lunches are expensive.
Yeah, they are.
I remember a very specific moment when, again, legendarily, Christian Bale is an actor who essentially becomes his character and stays in that character during the course of making the film, on or off the set. Mm-hmm. So he basically transformed into Dickie Eklund.
Oh,
he was him
to
the point where he was talking to someone off camera and the real sisters, some of them had come to visit and one of them went up to Christian. She's like, "Dickie." And it wasn't Dickie, obviously it was Christian. He'd like truly just transformed.
Oh my God. I'm dying.
Into Dickie Eklund. So the filming was amazing. We had a ton of fun. It was lively. Like I said, lots of visitors, very collegial. And then when we got to post.
Well, tell me a little bit about Amy Adams, because we haven't touched upon her at all. And I just thought her performance, and Melissa Leo, by the way,
they're incredible.
Just powerhouses.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about Amy. I've worked with her a couple times. She is herself a chameleon, just incredibly professional, incredibly cool, and just understood this role top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually staring at a picture of her right now. It's like right in one of these collages. Amy's background, she came from a little bit of a blue collar background herself.
So I didn't know that. Okay.
She kind of tapped into that mentality for this. And gosh, Melissa,
she's her own thing, right? She's just
her own. She won the Oscar obviously for that performance.
Yeah.
The commentary, if I recall at the time, was she's only a few years older than Wahlberg or Bale. How can she be their mom? But again, she just transformed into Alice. Became her. That one scene I remember filming where Alice rescues Christian essentially from the crack house, and they get in the car, and you can just see the love and the complicated love that a mother has for her son. And then he starts singing a song, and it's a really beautiful moment to me.
Yep.
And that was a lot of what Melissa was able to do, where she had this very body, outgoing personality, but she expressed so much without doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that scene is kind of a perfect example to me of one where she deserved that Oscar, because the range of kind of transformational emotions in the movie from her was exceptional.
Completely agree. It's one of my favorite performances. And
she's really exceptional.
It sort of felt like David formed a squad from your movie a little bit. He worked with Christian again and again, and Amy again and again. And it feels like you guys really sort of created a magical environment.
Yeah, David's known to do that. Obviously he'd worked with Wahlberg many times.
Yeah.
Because actors, once they kind of click into that process, I remember Bale was saying to me how much he loved that kind of rat-a-tat-tat process of, there is no rest. You're just kind of going.
Right.
And some people really click into that.
Right.
And his energy is infectious. David's energy is infectious.
Right. And is there
I kind of wish everybody could experience it.
Yeah,
really.
I know. That's why I love doing this podcast, because hearing from your perspective about filmmakers, it's so rare we get that, right? You were really, truly observant, and you've observed so many filmmakers. And so was there ever a low with David? He talks about in his Silver Linings Playbook, his experiences with mania and depression. And, was it always up? Was it always just like that up?
Oh, no,
energy?
I'll say this. When someone is comfortable to kind of express the highs and lows of emotional feeling, and because they're comfortable, if I can get comfortable with that person becomes essentially family to me, because I'm not hiding anything anymore. So we had that relationship where we would fight.
Wow.
And then we would collaborate. Then we would yell at each other.
Right.
And then we would collaborate.
Oh my God, how awesome.
Because of that, and it was never personal or it was passionate. And so I loved that. And we became so close because of that comfort level.
You don't always do that with filmmakers, right? There's those relationships where you're just always being sort of polite and you're working well together, but you never get past that fight phase where you can really just say whatever and then move on. That's
the
incredible.
Unconditional nature of, that was established pretty early on. and the other great thing about David is he takes notes and tries things. So, which is so interesting for someone with his resume and kind of filmic expertise. He's willing to try anything.
Incredible.
Again, he's kind of this amazing conductor who has all of these different pieces in his head and can add multiple versions of them and know if they work or don't work.
Yeah.
And that was the same in post.
All we ever wanted for you was to be world champion.
Mickey's a grown man. He can think for himself.
Shut your mouth.
Skank. Don't call me skank. I'll rip that nasty hair right out of your fucking head.
Hey everyone, this is Corey and Carly, the hosts of the Surviving Sister Wives podcast.
Sister Wives returns at last, and while the Browns have gone their own separate ways, that doesn't mean they're done with each other. Mary and Janelle form an unlikely alliance. Christine is off living in newly married bliss, and Cody and Robin are left wondering, can they be happy in a monogamous relationship?
And after all the joy and drama, they hit the hot seat and answer the questions we've been begging to know. Sister Wives returns Sunday, April 20th at 10 on TLC.
If you wear glasses, you know how hard it is to find the perfect pair. But step into a Warby Parker store, and you'll see it doesn't have to be. Not only will you find a great selection of frames, you'll also meet helpful advisors and friendly optometrists. Yep, many Warby Parker locations also offer eye exams. So the next time you need glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, or a new prescription, you know where to look. To find a Warby Parker store near you or to book an eye exam, head over to warbyparker.com/retail.
I spent the last 10 years of my life in bad fights set up by you and Alice. I finally got a good thing going for me, and you can't be fucking happy for me? Why?
So the filming was kind of a magical, I'm sure not without issue, but
oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not,
Dwell.
let's not make, it's not a fairy tale. They're all hard.
It's like childbirth.
Yeah.
But okay, so now we're in post and you've shot so much, and I can only imagine grappling with the amount of footage and takes. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but so just talk about the edit.
Pamela Martin, who was our editor,
genius.
phenomenal editor. The only real substantive difference that I can think of from kind of the first director's cut to the final product. And obviously there were tons of changes and scene changes and deletes and re-edits and putting back in and music and everything that you would imagine going into an edit. But the only substantive difference was in the original cut, David had this concept which added to the verisimilitude of the piece, which was throughout the movie, he was interviewing real people about this fight and about the brothers. And so interspersed throughout the entire narrative were kind of like When Harry Met Sally interstitials of real people.
Yes.
They were actors in that movie. In our movie, they were real people talking about the family, Mickey and Dickie, the fight. And it was really cool. It was like this almost like a hybrid feel of like part documentary film. And because of the style and the way he filmed it, and because within the movie, there's this HBO documentary that's being made, it all felt like it was of one voice. What we ended up concluding was that, you know, it kind of, even though it was really cool and a unique style, it took you out of the story a little bit and you want to be in it.
Yeah.
And so we ended up cutting all of those. When we first tested the movie, the only real substantive change that came from that was in the final fight where Dickie ends up becoming Mickey's trainer. We wanted to add to the speech. We wanted to add kind of a little bit more emotional juice to what Dickie tells Mickey to kind of invigorate him to go out there and win the title. So we did some additional filming there of Christian kind of adding to that, do it for me, you know, we've been through so much, like all that stuff. The fascinating part about making stories about real people is self-evident in that comment that they're real people. They still exist. They're in this world. Right. Obviously, from the very beginning, I'd mentioned we spent a lot of time with Mickey and Dickie interviewing them. They came to set quite a bit, but they hadn't seen the film. And I'll never forget, it was David Russell, David Hoberman, and I, Mark, Christian, Mickey, and Dickie.
Okay. Wow.
And we screened the film for them at Paramount. Because, by the way, I'll come to this afterwards of the reason why I ended up at Paramount. But we screened the movie for them. They've never read a script. And imagine that, sitting, watching people play you, telling a story. And Mickey sat there completely silent. And Dickie said, I can't believe I did that. Like, I can't believe that I did that. Oh my God. And he was, you know, look, I'm not going to sugar. He was a little bit distraught.
Right.
And so we said, you have no idea what impact this movie has on audiences. He said, you need to see this with an audience. So we set up a screening in Boston for the two of them.
Oh my God.
With 500 people.
Oh my God.
And the result was like off the charts.
Oh.
So at the premiere, Mickey and Dickie got up and spoke in front of everyone. And Dickie said something to the effect, I'm shortening it, the things I've done in my life, I'm not proud of the things I've done and putting it up in front of everyone to see. But I do realize and appreciate that the impact I can have on other people for putting the story out there. So it means an extraordinary amount to me. Yeah, it was very, very cool.
That's incredible. That is true.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
I'm like quite a little bit verklempt just hearing you tell that. So Todd, come back to why Paramount was back in the mix and just talk through the release. Because it really was a Cinderella story.
We had this finished film that was beautiful. It had tested really well. And we obviously needed a distributor. So Relativity at that point hadn't established distribution arm yet. We kind of did what we, meaning the group of us with Relativity and the agents, did what independent films do is, well, let's screen it for studios and see who wants it.
Oh my God.
And nobody did. Nobody wanted it.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
I'm not kidding. Nobody wanted it.
And it had tested, the numbers were good. People liked the film.
Yeah, they were very good.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. Each studio had kind of a reason.
Yep.
And to be totally honest, I don't remember what the reasons were.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, Paramount came in and said, we had it before. We own certain aspects of it. We'll come and distribute it. And when their team got behind it, between marketing, publicity, awards, it was off to the races. I mean, they dove in head first.
Okay.
And really absolutely crushed that campaign. Again, it was another example of, when Paramount bowed out the first time and Relativity had to come in, it felt like a loss. But when they came back in later, it was the best possible version of what that could have been.
Right.
Maybe had Paramount been in from the beginning and we would have spent more money on it, it would have been a different movie and kind of would have been marketed differently and they would have had to recoup in a different way.
Yeah.
This way, they really focused on the things that mattered. The movie did extraordinary business in the box office. And obviously it was an awards hit too. So I just look at those situations like, gosh, anyone who runs into hurdles, that phrase of turning lemons into lemonade. I mean, it's so cheesy and trite, but it's true.
Oh my God,
it's really true. There are moments in time when something that happens that looks like it's bad news that eventually turns out to be good news. That's happened a lot in my career.
Yeah, totally. Me too. Can you talk about the Friday night opening? I always love hearing that.
We went to see it at the Mann's Chinese Theater at the time, Mann's Grauman's. I stood in the back. The theater was packed.
Okay. Opening night, packed.
Opening night.
Good
I had
sign.
dinner that night with David Russell and Tucker Tooley, who was running production at Relativity.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And we went to, that super famous oldest Hollywood restaurant ever, right on Hollywood Boulevard. I'll think of it.
Okay.
And the three of us had dinner there. And we went to see the film and the place was packed. And, it's like when you make a comedy, you can see how people react because the reaction of laughing is a physical manifestation of how they're feeling in the movie. So it's working.
Yes.
A lot of times with, dramas or you can't tell because
it's the worst. It's the absolute worst. Yeah.
And I've never made a horror movie, so I don't know what, so I assume screaming is the same thing as laughing. But with this movie, when that final fight came, I mean, I think people were standing up in their seats and cheering and screaming. And it was like you were at a fight. You were like at a real boxing match.
Oh,
so it
God.
was like, oh yeah, this is working. This is really working.
Oh my God. I love it. I love those stories. It's like the reason we do all this, right? It's like for those moments of connection.
Yeah. And that first weekend, I think it was, they did some sort of a platform release.
Okay.
So it was released in a few theaters and then a week later, it was expanded to more theaters. And then, it just kind of kept going.
And the reviews were obviously very strong.
The reviews were exceptionally strong. Movie got great reviews. Performances got great reviews. David Russell hadn't been a darling for a minute.
Right.
And this is kind of putting him back in that scene, which then, allowed him to show his talents for many years to come.
Totally. Art imitating life. It's like the story of Mickey, the story of David Russell, are similar.
Funnily enough, by the way, years later, I ended up making another movie in Boston called Stronger, which also,
of course, with Reva,
with
our
mutual
bestie.
Friend Reva and Jake, and Mickey Ward was a teamster on that movie.
You're kidding?
Yeah, he was a driver.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that is so
cool.
Crazy.
Super cool.
I love that story so much, and the insight into David O. Russell and just the actors, and obviously the rest of it is history. Like 2 many Oscar nominations, 2 Oscar wins, right? Melissa Leo and Christian Bale. Incredible. And I always try to choose movies that I feel like have real lasting impact on the world. And, not only our industry, but just movies that people love and that people, when you mention them, they know exactly what the movie is, right?
I mean, the thing that I love about what we do, and it's hard, it doesn't always work. But when it works, it's really fulfilling, is that I love being involved in stories that leaves people with a residual effect, that they can take something with them. Mm-hmm. And I say a lot, I like telling stories that make people feel a little bit better when they leave the experience than they did when they started the experience. So The Fighter and the kind of the residual effect is people take something with them. I still get texts and emails from people saying, I just watched the movie again, and here's what it inspired me to do this. Mm-hmm. There is I won't mention the name, but a certain politician who, this is his favorite movie of all time. And he will text me every few months saying, I watched that scene again just to kind of pump me up to go do this thing. Oh my God,
I love it. You have to tell us, or tell us offline.
Yeah.
It's a politician we love, we hope.
It's a politician everybody should love.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Isn't that a weird thing to say? Are there politicians everyone loves? I don't even know that exists.
I don't either.
Great individual.
Good person.
And
fighting for the right thing.
Uses this movie as kind of like a pre-workout rah-rah.
Yes.
He has to go into a meeting or something.
Totally. Oh, that's so awesome. I mean, that in and of itself is like real impact. But I think you just answered my last question, which is, what is the impact you think the film has, and why does it resonate in the way that it does? And I sort of feel
I think people love the family. Like, people love stories about family, resilience. I set out to make a boxing movie, ended up making a movie about family that happens to be in the world of boxing.
Yep.
And I think those are, in my opinion, the best kinds of sports movies, where you're telling stories about people, you're telling stories about overcoming odds, obstacles, ups,
underdogs,
downs,
totally
underdogs.
Yes. Yeah.
And it happens to be framed in this world of competition where you kind of put everything on the line.
And that's like a story that is universal, I feel. And you did that in spades.
I mean, think about going back to Rocky.
Exactly.
After I watched Rocky 3 and Rocky 4, of course, I went back and watched Rocky 1 and Rocky 2.
Right.
And everyone knows in Rocky 1, he does not win the fight.
He doesn't
win the fight.
He doesn't win the fight.
But he made it to the end. He survived all the way to the end.
Right.
And what everyone remembers from that movie is, yo, Adrian, I did it.
That's right.
It's a love story.
Oh, my God. I'm going to cry. But, it's not only Mickey who did it, it's Dickie. Like, I think about my emotional response, and it's like, it's great that Mickey did so well, but Dickie survived and got clean and managed to maintain his relationship with his family. And to me, that was as much of a victory as Mickey winning the belts or whatever it is. So
that's exactly right.
So that is kind of the brilliant thing. It's like a parallel story of success and winning.
Yeah.
Todd, you're so awesome. I had so much fun doing this. I will ask you back, as I do many, many friends.
Next time, Beverly Hills, Chihuahua.
You're amazing. And I'm so impressed with all you're doing. And when I come to LA, I will come visit you, and we'll try to cook something up together. Very
Please
excited.
do. Thanks for having me. This was super fun. Great trip down memory lane.
Wasn't it? I think you're going to love listening to it. I listen to these over and over again.
I don't listen to my own voice.
Come on.
Not a
All
chance.
the producers do. All right. You don't have to admit it, but at one point.
All right.
Thanks, Todd. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
As Mickey Ward pounds away, goes to the body with the left hook, lands the uppercut again. Here he comes for the second time. Mickey Van's gonna stop it right there. Irish Mickey Ward with a big 8-pound TKO. Who used to be the pride of Lowell, huh? Right here. Who's the pride of Lowell now? Right there. That's how it's meant to be, you know? And down to him. Nothing better than that. Nothing better than that. He did it. I gotta go.
Hey everyone, this is Corey and Carly, the hosts of the Surviving Sister Wives podcast.
Sister Wives returns at last, and while the Browns have gone their own separate ways, that doesn't mean they're done with each other. Mary and Janelle form an unlikely alliance. Christine is off living in newly married bliss, and Cody and Robin are left wondering, can they be happy in a monogamous relationship?
And after all the joy and drama, they hit the hot seat and answer the questions we've been begging to know. Sister Wives returns Sunday, April 20th at 10 on TLC.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
For 25 years, Brightview Senior Living Associates have been committed to creating a vibrant culture and delivering exceptional services, making Brightview a great place to work and live. If you're looking for a rewarding opportunity to serve your local community and grow, we want you to join our team. Brightview Senior Living is growing and actively seeking vibrant associates to join our community teams, including directors, healthcare, activities, hospitality, and dining. Apply today at careers.brightviewseniorliving.com. Equal employment opportunities. Text BV Jobs to 97211 to apply.
Vanessa, I was just reminded what a great storyteller some producers are, and Todd Lieberman being like top among them. I was like gripped the way he started this story by like talking about like Rocky when he was 12, was just like, take us all the way back, man.
I love it.
So good.
It's true. I mean, I think it's such an important quality in a producer to be able to be a great storyteller. And I did feel like I was listening to a story rather than like, kind of recalling how something got made. I thought it was amazing.
I think like a couple of the takeaways from this great story, because it really is such a great movie, was that, I think when Aronofsky was on to do this film, the film was probably a lot heavier, a lot darker. And when David O. Russell came on, he was sort of insistent that there be these moments of levity and humor. And to me, like the Christian Bale character being as funny as he was tragic was the thing that like won him the Oscar, right? And I think like it's such an important thing for us all to remember is that the light has to play against the dark, And I think the movies that we focus on so often are the ones that sort of balance those two. And so I just loved being reminded of that.
Yeah. And it made the character so much more tragic just because it would like he was such a human, he had, he felt like a very real person. So when you get to that kind of final scene where you realize like he's been being filmed for, a crack documentary, it's like,
totally.
It's heartbreaking. It really it's such a great movie. And I'm curious, I mean, I'm re-listening to this now, and I'm sure we are constantly taking things away from our brilliant nuggets that the producers on this podcast give us in our actual work. I'm curious if there was any kind of moment in him recalling the story where you were like, oh, that's so good to remember. that might be my favorite.
Well, 100%. I think like one of the things that I loved was that they shot authentically in Massachusetts, right? And so then they were able to cast locally, and those sisters, I always talk about the sisters, like those sisters were so good. I mean, they're probably among my favorite parts of the film because they felt so authentic, and they weren't trained actresses, but they were just of the time and place. And so I remember the line of like, whatever the fuck an MTV girl is. They keep calling Amy Adams an MTV girl. And it just feels like that's an off the cuff phrase that like one of them said. And like, you know, it's just the kind of thing that feels so authentic and great. And so I'm always trying to remember that, you know, so often we're forced to go shoot in these like tax credit states, and because it allows our movies to get made, but you kind of lose that authentic sort of time and place of whatever you're trying to shoot, because you're trying to cheat everything. And in fact, it's a debate we're having right now. This one's for you, Will Bridges, that, you know, where do we shoot? Do we shoot in the actual place that the movie is set, or do we try to shoot someplace that will allow us more days, a little bit more time, and a little bit more money? So it's a debate, guys. It's a big debate among producers always. Yeah.
But it is amazing, you're right, to see it really work and to have access to local talent and to really be able to tap into something authentic about a time and place. And I think it is what makes the movie so unique, because it just feels like it couldn't have been told in any other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so many movies are, and we don't know.
That's right. Well, I always like to say, you know, Mean Streets was shot mostly in LA with 3 days of exteriors in New York. And so I think like it is possible to create like authentic masterpieces and not necessarily always shoot in that specific place. But it certainly helps. All right, guys. Well, that was another great remixed episode. And Vanessa, I'll let you do the wrap up.
All right. Follow us on Instagram at Hollywood Gold Pod. Go to our website, staygoldfeatures.com, and hit the merch tab for some merch. Like and subscribe wherever you get the podcast. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We have a lot of new listeners, and we're
really growing. So excited, guys. Yeah.
It's amazing to see.
And we're still doing these like YouTube clips, Andrew. Oh my gosh, go check out our YouTube, guys.
At our YouTube. We have more clips there. If you're the kind of person that likes to watch something while you're working, there we go.
Go for it. All right, guys. Love you. And don't forget to
stay gold.
Stay gold.